Season 2 of the Pat and JT podcast.
Oh man, I'm here at last. The best time, always gonna be the best. Come on!
Exclusively on the Hurrdat Media Network.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so here we are again, day 2 of No Pat. This is Pat Free Radio.
Pat Free Radio.
Pat Free Podcast, No Pat Podcast. He's listened. I think he's listened. I'm not sure. Yesterday, we had Heidi in for the episode yesterday, and he all he said was he needs to listen to it, and because she made some reference. What did she reference? Oh, and also the title got him.
Yeah, that's what it was. It was the title.
The title is what threw him off because it was about dog hair, giving away dog hair for free. You got to listen to the episode. But anyway, so Rhianna's in today.
Hello.
Sasha's here today. So we're going to just talk about, I don't know. Well, obviously, Rhianna always brings a great conversation.
Oh, thank you.
You always do, and people love having you on. So it's always great. But we were just kind of off before the podcast started. How do we get talking about?
I asked Sasha what her background was in creating.
You guys have met
podcasts and
like
media.
2 times, 3 times.
Yeah, it's like our third time.
I keep not wanting you guys to know each other. Every time you come in, you guys know each other. Yes, they know each other. So anyway, so you were talking
I
about
just
her
asked
background.
her, how did she get into this? And she started telling me, how she chose this. So and then we just all.
I just found out something I didn't know about you though too.
Which part?
What you went to school for originally.
Oh yeah, right when I got out of high school, I took the summer off and I was in college.
Okay.
But I had chosen to go to school for nuclear medicine technology.
Usually that doesn't come out of a radio person's mouth.
I was just thinking, how smart are you? Like, the math and the science.
I loved the math and the science part when I was actually going to school for it, and then I shadowed it because it was a requirement halfway through, and I hated it because it was boring.
Right.
The actual job was boring.
Well, thank God you did that.
And that
because
should be
halfway through. You had time still.
It should be a requirement. I mean, you should
I think
have
so,
to,
too.
even before you go to school and pay, they should say, okay, what is it that you think you're trying to get? What's your goal? All right, let's go take a look. And like they do that with some of the radio kids. They'd have them come in, but they always have them come in with the people that are on the air.
Right.
It's like, well, okay.
And that looks fun.
Right.
Yeah,
Everyone wants to be on the radio.
Exactly. Yeah, they don't show you all the stuff that goes on the backside. It's like, oh,
Which is a lot.
God, it's a lot. It's a lot.
But it's the fun part. I think the back side of radio and broadcasting is the fun
It's
part.
where the smoke and mirrors is.
Right.
And then you have to make it happen on the air.
Yeah.
Right. So there's both sides have creativity.
Yes.
Lots of creativity to it. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and usually science and math people aren't incredibly creative. So it's you are very special. You have like this.
Right.
It worked out. I actually how I got into broadcasting.
Yes.
I was at a concert. I was standing in the back of the room watching a football game at a concert. And
What concert was this? It had to have been boring.
It was one of my favorite bands, but they weren't up yet. It was the
got
opening
it.
acts,
Okay.
which
So it's
sorry.
I'm going back. I'll be
guys.
back here. Yeah. Got it.
But the Sophia, Iowa Western,
Sophia
had
John.
Yeah.
I love her.
She when she first started in radio, I was at the Eagle when she first started.
Yeah.
Her family has a restaurant in Lincoln.
Yeah.
And her family, and I'm not trying to tell tales out of school, but they weren't happy, or her father, I think in particular, wasn't happy she wasn't going into family business.
Yeah.
And she was working overnights at the Eagle in Lincoln.
I love her because I
Yeah.
am a huge music fan. I used to be called Rock Barbie because I was all blonde and looked all perfect and would go to these metal concerts. Like I've seen everything from Manson to Cannibal Corpse to freaking Dixie Chicks, right? Like I just love live music.
Me too.
And so I had always email Sophia. I'm like, hey, have you heard this band? Have you heard this band? Like
She's just like the sweetest person.
I tried to tell her about this band called Saul that's out of Sioux City, and now they're finally making it pretty big. And I was like, Sophia, you gotta come to a show with me. She's so awesome. She's just fantastic.
That's great. Yeah, I'm so happy for her because when I met her, that was in the early '90s, and then to see, and I was gone then for a number of years, and then to hear the position she was in at Iowa Western, I was like, whoa,
Like
She's
perfect
the glue
for
over
her.
there.
Yeah.
that's
She's
perfect
the
for
glue.
her. Absolutely. Okay, so
you were at a
Sophia
show.
was at that show.
Yeah. Well, the guy that I have, my roommates that I lived with, one of them was her best friend. And she was like, Sasha, I swear, every single time I see you out and about or at a concert, you are constantly watching sports. You do realize we have a sports media program at Iowa Western, right? Like, you can do this as a job.
Yeah.
And I was like, what?
And she probably said it.
And I
just
really
like
had it
that.
because I'm a female, and in Nebraska, especially at that time, you didn't see women in sports.
You rarely
in
see
Nebraska.
women, or rarely saw women in radio.
Yeah, and
I mean,
so,
just in general, you might have a weather person that would pop in, or they were the sidekick.
right.
They were like Giggles McGee sitting over here.
Well,
you know,
I
and
told
it's like
you,
that
I
wasn't
was-
appealing.
Yeah,
I was in journalism right out of
Yeah.
high school, and I worked at the Omaha World Herald. I did like the Friday night scoreboard.
yeah.
Cool.
And I was the only woman, and you could tell it wasn't. They weren't. This is a long time ago, you know, but it was. You could tell they weren't huge fans.
The boys' club. Yeah.
Yes, it was.
totally.
And sadly, a long time ago, but not that long ago.
Oh,
Right.
it's 98, 99.
Really?
But it feels like a long time.
Right. Especially when this year has lasted 10 years.
Okay, so
Yeah.
Sophia plants the seed.
Yeah. And so then I started looking into it, and I was like, I mean,
Yeah.
why not?
Why
And then
not?
when I got there, I split my degree in half. Most people either go radio or go full on TV. I just split it in half because I didn't want to pigeonhole myself.
Right.
I wanted to be able to do both,
Yep.
It's really
which has actually really helped me out.
Now,
The path that I went on, which is crazy and windy.
Crazy. It is. It really is.
Yeah.
And to this point, coming into podcasting, all of that is necessary.
Right.
But you made a really interesting comment. You said, I was kind of old when I figured out what I wanted to do when I grew up. You were 25. And I made a comment, I was 36 when I decided finally what I want to be when I grow up. And it was the universe showed me. It wasn't like I chose it. You know what I mean?
Isn't that crazy?
But it's sad that we feel like 25 is old for you to figure out what it is you really want to be doing.
I was 23. And it was old because most people that got into radio when they were 14 or 15.
Right.
Then they were guys.
Yeah.
And so everybody you talk to is like, well, I've been doing this since I was a sophomore in high school or something. And I'm like, what? And I was in college but didn't know what I wanted to do. And so that did not pay off that way. It paid off in the sense that I took a lot of real general classes.
Yeah.
So I knew a lot about a few things, but a little about a lot or something like that. But anyway, I was also showing horses and horse shows and rodeos in Arizona, and I was a rodeo queen for Phoenix Rodeo.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
So you traveled and then you did interviews, right? And so I would go to all these radio stations across the West, like the western third of the country, and be on radio shows and interviewed and talking about the Phoenix Rodeo. And so you're like this ambassador, right? And so my last interview was with a radio station in Phoenix, KNIX. W. Stephen Martin was the morning guy, and he was interviewing me. We get done. He's like the king of radio down there. He'd been around forever. And we get done, and he's just kind of sitting there. Like, he reminds me of Gary Saddlemeyer in a sense, if you think of him here on KFAB.
Yeah.
Like he's been there forever,
Right.
And everybody knows him, and they all love him. And anyway, we get done, and he's just sitting there. And he says, "So what are you going to do when you hang up your crown? You know, it's the end of your reign," because I was getting ready to be over with, and I'm like, don't know.
Good question.
You know, I thought about maybe going into working in promotions for one of the major sponsors for PRCA, which is the Professional Rodeo Cowboys Association. Because I was like, okay, maybe Stetson or something like that, right? Don't know. And he says, well, you might want to think about going into radio. You make money. I didn't know people.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, because I'm thinking you pay to go do this. I mean,
Yeah.
it just never dawned on me that people got paid to do this. And so that's how I got started. And then I got my internship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, and so that was not planned, and it turned out to be yes.
Well,
Yeah.
and from
Yeah.
a spiritual point of view, it's synchronicity, right? So we made these agreements with these people before we incarnated. So Sophia agreed to plant that seed for you before you even got
Wow.
here. And then that man agreed to, so we have these moments, these experiences where we cross each other's plays and we plant seeds, or we have just the right information, or we encourage them, whatever it is. So that's pretty cool
if
that
it
he
hadn't
showed up that way
happened
for you.
for both of us, if that moment hadn't happened, a different direction.
I have no idea where.
Right, exactly. Not a
Zero clue.
Because things were not according to plan up to that point for me. Everything was just kind of like happening, and I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
let's see where this goes, and didn't really have a plan.
I had zero plans. I dropped out of college, and then I was like, well, I guess I'm randomly moving to Minneapolis and sleeping on my mom's couch.
Yeah,
Cool.
right. So the difference between you when you were a kid, and we kind of touched on this at one point, was that when you're a kid, you're asked what you want to be when you grow up. That's a tough question because you have such a limited scope of what the possibilities are.
Yeah, I think we are hurting our children by asking them, what do you want to be when you grow up? So I have 9-year-old twin girls, and I ask them, what problem do you want to solve, or how do you want to show up in the world?
I love that.
Yeah. So that
Is that hard for them? Like, do they recognize the problems?
No, but
on a very simplistic level.
I don't think they really do. But what I'm trying to do is expand their
Yeah.
awareness and get them to ask questions. Like, so for instance, I opened a business and I was telling my kids, you can open a business too, or you can be a teacher, you can whatever you want to do. And, and my daughter, Victoria, she's very type A. She is the boss. And she's like, I'm going to open a salon and I'm going to make people feel beautiful. And I just laughed because she's just she's the boss. She's going to be a CEO of some sort.
Was she born first? I got to ask.
That's
born, okay because they always say that.
So I did in vitro and I transferred 2 embryos and I got both. So in the belly, Victoria was baby A. But she was actually pulled out second during the C-section.
Okay.
But I think she adopted the personality of baby A. She's my type A. She's going to, if we make it till she goes to college, it'll be a miracle. We're constantly butting heads. But my daughter, London, was like, I said, what are you going to do to help people? And she's like, people? I'm going to help the animals. I'm like, okay.
Girl.
So they're already thinking about it. And I think that really helps to expand their world and their awareness and what else is possible for them.
It's true. It is true. And you talked about, I mean, for kids, they want, their expectations are so different than what ours were even 20 years ago.
Oh, yeah. My expectations as an adult are different than 5 years ago. So, asking a kid what you want to be when you grow up, I think that's an impossible question for them to answer.
I know. And it's so, and it is constantly changing.
So much
what
faster.
we talked about, the YouTube stars now.
Yeah. That's what yours said.
Yeah.
Right? He's like, I
My
want to be a
stepson
YouTube
was
star.
like, I want to be a YouTube star. He was like, you are 8.
No,
At the time when we asked him.
my children take my cell phone constantly. I'm always finding videos of them recording themselves doing just the mundane things of life, and they really think somebody would be interested in watching.
Right. Because there are people
because they watch it, and I'm just like, you guys need to get outside more. What is going on here?
Isn't it crazy too? I was just talking to a friend of mine yesterday, and it was coming down. We were just having a plain phone call, and I said, so weird. I haven't just had a phone call in so long because everything's Teams or Zoom or messaging or voice to text or whatever. And he says, I know, I miss that. He says, do you remember when we had phones that's all you could do on them is call?
Right.
And you'd run out of minutes, and I said, I know. And then then it got to the point where you had some data and then you could do texting, and then you had the kids and everybody's arguing going, well, now wait, do we want the kids to have cell phones? They're too young to have cell phones. And now it's just a given. Every kid's got to have a cell phone. He says, I had to give my kids cell phones because I wanted to get rid of the landline. They couldn't call the cops if they didn't have a phone.
Right.
So I had to get them a cell phone if we got rid of the landline.
If they're home alone. I haven't crossed that. My kids are 9 and they keep asking me for a phone. They keep telling me about all their friends that have a phone. I'm like, listen, I am very aware of the culture and the the culture, the mean girls, how their self-esteem is going to be impacted by social media because we see it as adults. There is no way in hell my children are having a phone. It's just not happening. How old will they be when they get one? Oh, I don't know. I'm hoping 15. I mean, I know that's crazy, but I just think especially with all the apps that are pedophilia playgrounds,
they're traps.
I just don't trust it. So I actually raise my kids like it's 1986. They don't even have a whatever
tablet.
Like a tablet. Yeah, thank you. They don't even have a tablet in my house. They use my phone and my laptop every once in a while, but
interesting.
We are very not 1986, maybe 1990. We didn't want my stepson to have a phone until middle school, just because he's out of district of where we live.
Yeah,
he needed to have a phone. But please believe that phone is on lockdown. He does not have social media, and we have an app on there that he has to ask permission for any app that's put on his phone.
Right.
I don't. It's kids at that age are so fragile anyway. It's why introduce another layer of potential crap
It's
to his life, you know?
It's just another way for somebody
I
to
think
get
a
in
lot
their,
of people,
in their world.
Yeah, I think a lot of people think it's convenience, like just give them the phone and maybe it's even a babysitter sometimes. But it really does, the fallout for me isn't worth it, you know?
Yeah.
And my kids will download a game and I'll look at it and I'm like, this looks scary. Like, what is this introducing to you? You know, and I'll delete it. And I'm not perfect, but I'm really trying to do everything I can to protect them for as long as possible because,
absolutely.
you know, I posted this on Facebook. Like I was just looking at pictures of myself from when I was my children's age, and I just lost it. I cried really hard because I wasn't given the opportunity to be a kid, you know, and so I guess I protect that like crazy with these two, you know.
Right. And the things that you hear about, and you wonder about how things impress upon them because like, and I've read the stuff about some of the movies, Disney movies, et cetera, that there are other symbolism that's going on in there. And one of the movies that fascinates me is Monsters, Inc. Because it literally is a story about a city that's run on the fear of children. They have to make kids scream to keep their, right?
Right.
When you think about that,
right.
it's like, wait, what are we saying? But then you think about most nursery rhymes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
They're dark.
They're really dark.
I mean, the Brothers Grimm were evil.
Yeah.
Interesting. So anyway, we didn't even intend to go down this road, but we did, and I'm glad we did. So let's start over. What do you got for us today, girl?
Start over.
Right? I know.
Or part two.
Part two.
Same
Part two.
episode. I don't, you know, I was just thinking this morning, it's like, what am I going to talk about? And because for me, it's like, very much just everybody hold the line and everything's working out. I know you can't see it, but it's working out. And astrologically, great historical changes are happening in December. There's things that we haven't seen in hundreds and hundreds of years. And so it might feel like chaos, but change always, you know, chaos always precedes change. So that's fair. And it you know, and I was thinking like, what could we do to just really survive? And then I was like, no, not survive, but like thrive during the holidays, because I think people just get into this mode of like what it should look like and what they should be doing. And I just created this list of like 8 or 9 things, like what people could do to really enjoy the holiday season with more ease. And I thought maybe we could just go through that and bounce our ideas off. So the first one was, if it's not a hell yes, it's a hard no.
Yeah.
Think about that. So how many times a day do we do something because we think we should, or it makes somebody's life easier, or you just give in? But we are losing our life force energy by doing things when we are dragging our feet about it. If it doesn't light us up, we are losing life force energy doing it. So I really recommend, like, before you say yes, check in. Is this a hell yes? If it's not, it's a hard no.
No, I've kind of embraced just like my general routine, even because I used to begrudgingly have to do certain chores, and now it's like, you know what? This is just part of your day. This is what you got, things you got to do. So let's try and find a little bit of spark in doing this, and it just shifted everything for me.
Well, something I do is I change the verbiage to I get to.
Yeah.
So there's days where I wake up and I'm so tired and I just want to go to bed. It's like, oh, I have to go to work. And it's like, no, I get to go to work. And I really mean that. You know,
waking up in the morning every morning is just like a short list of thank yous. There's just that little attitude of gratitude, a little thankful list that you throw out there.
Yeah.
Just like, okay, just sit and think for a second. I'm so fortunate I get to blank, you know, or I have my dog and then I got my cat. And, you know, just those little check-offs, because this season is going to be so different. Thanksgiving was so different. Families didn't get together like you wanted, and just kind of being, in the moment and appreciative.
And that's actually on my list. Start your day off with gratitude. Awesome. So there's so many times where my alarm will go off and I'll just sit there for a couple minutes in the quiet and just list the things that I am grateful for. And I think when people think gratitude, it's like, oh, I don't, you know, it doesn't have to be big and fancy. It could be I have clean towels, the lights turn on when I flip the switch, I have hot water, I have food in the cupboards. Yeah. And when you start to line up all those things that you're grateful for, so much more to be grateful for flows into your life. So
absolutely. it's hard to, I find it difficult sometimes, like, to just change the habits. It's just little stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it could change your whole entire day around. So instead of waking up grumpy, you're just
Well,
you're
and it's
grateful.
a lot of the times it's when you are in automatic mode, you aren't even conscious of your thought patterns or the decisions or the habits.
Right.
And so really, and I've said this before, but it's on the list again. It's find ways to spend time in the quiet. You know, even if you can drive in the quiet, or I know a lot of mothers are like, Rhianna, there literally is no time to get quiet. And so there's days where if it's been a crazy weekend, I'll put my noise canceling headphones on my head and I'll just sit in my bed for 10 minutes and just breathe.
Do you not just feel like it just feels like things just wash off of you when you're just in the quiet and like listening for things that it's like, what is that?
Well,
I didn't know I could hear that. You know?
Your central nervous system needs time to decompress. If you're always in fight or flight mode, that increases the cortisol, which is increasing the stress levels, which is making you feel frazzled. And that quiet time, even if it's just 5 minutes, decompresses the entire central nervous system. And you become aware of the habits or the thoughts. You see things that you've never seen before.
And you always do this. You bring up something that always like resonates with something I just recently saw. And it's something, right? It's crazy. But talking about like in the morning when you say your thank yous, it's like that's your prayer. That's when you're talking to whoever it is that you want to talk to. But meditation is when you listen.
Yeah.
And if you don't shut up
Right.
and just let everything be quiet, you don't allow anything to come in.
Yeah, I just posted that. So prayer is when you are talking to the universe or to God, and meditation is when you are actually listening. So how many times are we having one-way conversations? Then we're like, God's not answering my prayers. And it's like, did you listen?
Yeah,
Did you take time to listen to? And that's something, I just had a conversation with my kiddo who said, God doesn't talk to me. And I'm like, he does. And let me explain this. So she's listening for a voice, right?
Yeah, right.
Like London. And it's actually an impression on you. Energetically, you sense it and then you translate the answer. And she says things that it's so clear God is talking to her, but she didn't realize how. And so something that we've done, I implement 30-minute quiet times. Like if people are frazzled and if I'm just like, okay, everybody go to your corner. We're going to start a 30-minute timer and everybody just do something that is gentle and easy and quiet. So for those moms who are like, it's chaos all the time, could you implement a 15-minute quiet time? Could you require like something like that? Or if they're off playing and the TV is still on, do you need the TV on? Can you flip it off? And just find ways to minimize the noise so that your central nervous system can decompress.
Yeah, it's like not even music, nothing. Just
anyone can do anything for 5, 10, or 15 minutes.
and it's all helpful.
Yeah.
All helpful. Energy-wise, lately things have been crazy. Remember last time, I don't know if I talked to you this last time, but I was having like crazy dreams. I mean, just wild, crazy stuff. This last couple 3 days, the best dreams ever.
Nice.
I mean, crazy good, like seeing people in my dreams or a pet that I lost a long time ago, right? And it was like, oh my gosh, you know, and just in color, and things were being transformed. Like it was a house and they started tearing the roof off and they were putting on a new roof.
Nice.
And I know that was a good thing. I
Yeah.
sensed it.
Yeah.
It was a good, it wasn't dread, but it's like all of a sudden it's like all these great dreams the last 2 or 3 nights.
Nice.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that was another thank you. Because those other dreams sucked. I was like, what am I dreaming?
Right.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah, there's, and it's really hard to say because there is so much going on energetically. Like it might be you, it might be the collective you're feeling. I feel like there's big ups and downs right now energetically. And so some days people are flying high and the other days they tank and they're blaming themselves for it. And it's just the energy. And that's why I thought today we had to talk about ways to just get more even keel, right? And that's what's happening is just there's so much change happening.
But it's nice
globally.
And
it's not just
I
about
notice
us.
it now though. See, that's the other thing too. Give me 2 years ago, I wouldn't have really paid attention. It just would have been whatever. Or I probably wouldn't have remembered. That's the other side of it too. I never used to remember my dreams.
Yeah. I don't really often remember my dreams either, but I know that I'm often like doing things. I'm working in the astral and at nighttime, and there's
which is
stuff I don't
fascinating
need
to me.
see, so
Yeah.
But so back to the list, just a couple more things
Sure, go ahead.
that I think are really important right now is take time to do things that bring you joy without feeling guilty. So I had a client who is a business owner and she has a newer baby at home, and she stayed on the couch for several hours and just snuggled the baby. And then she beat herself up for it. And she's like, I should be doing this and I should be doing this. And if we could just kill some of the shoulds and really just remember that we are here to enjoy the human experience. So to do things that bring us joy, whether it's blaring the music for a little bit and dancing or snuggling longer or watching something that makes you laugh or buying the nice sheets because it just feels good on your skin. Like really find ways to enjoy the human experience. And then I think for a lot of people, it's letting yourself off the hook, and you don't have to be everything for everyone. So
Yeah.
That one's hard. I think.
it is hard, especially for
You have
females.
to work at
There's
it.
something in there. But I think what I want to point out is that there's a lot of people that aren't experiencing their full journey that they agreed to do because you are out there saving them, quote unquote, saving them. So let's say somebody got into a pickle and you rush in and you're going to save the day and you're going to fix it because you love them and that's who you are. What if you are keeping them from a lesson that they need to learn? Or what if that is their karma showing up and they need to work through it?
See, that takes you back to like helicopter parents.
Yeah.
When people would get so mad at the parents that were just like constantly over their kids, I don't think they could put their finger on it exactly, but I think it's along those lines. It's like you want the kids to experience good and bad because they're going to grow from both,
Right.
right? And so
You grow more from failure than you do success.
Yeah. And it's where can you empower them
Right.
to save themselves or
Right.
to help themselves? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So I'm sure there's plenty of times where I just look like this cold mother and it's like, and I'm, like,
We were just
anything broken?
I just saw the face
Do
over
I need
there.
to cut it
She's-
off?
She's like, cold mother. Let's talk.
but it's I
My
I've
kids know I'm
said-
very loving, but I won't swoop in and try
Yeah.
to fix everything. It's like, and they'll say things like, Mom, I don't know how. I'm like, well, let's critically think through this.
Yeah.
Like what other solutions are there? You
right.
know?
Or how do I?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So I try to empower them. And I think as women, we need to remember not to save everybody.
That I say that one's hard because it was hard for me to stop doing that. I honestly, the phrase that I say the most anymore is I feel like this squelcher of joy because I'm not going to just make stuff up to make you feel better. This is how it is. You're going to have to figure this out.
When you talk about your stepson too, how old was he when you first met him?
3.
So you've basically been with him through, a lot of stuff, but
Yeah.
the first 3 years. So that was all new to you.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
my
Because you would have
goodness.
been, you would
Yeah.
have been pretty young. You
Yeah.
would have been late 20s,
So that was
right? Mid
yeah.
20s.
Yep. It's been 10 years.
That
Yeah.
would have been
together.
challenging
So
to be stepmom at that age.
Yeah.
yeah. There was one day that I was thinking of specifically. He needed to wear gym shoes because it was gym day. But he did not want to wear them. He wanted to wear flip-flops. And I'm like, no, you're wearing your gym shoes. He was crying on the way to school, and I called his dad, and I'm like, I don't know. He goes, just take him home and let him do the flip-flops. He'll figure out why he needs to wear his gym shoes. And I was like, oh,
Okay.
okay.
Which is true.
Yeah.
Which is true. It's like the kid who, if they forget their homework, it's like, well, I can't run it to you today because
Yeah.
I'm busy.
Yep.
You needed to. It was setting out for you, and I told you to grab it. That kind of thing. Instead of swooping in and rushing down and
Yeah.
taking him their homework.
And now that
because-
he's
yeah.
a teenager, it's like, he'll be like, oh, I don't know how. I'm like, well, then you can ask me how to show you. I'll show you how to do it, but I'm not going to do it for you. You got to know how to do this
Or you
stuff.
can Google YouTube.
Exactly.
And look at your YouTube influencer.
Exactly. Exactly.
Go to your favorite YouTube
But
star.
how much time did you spend trying to save and fix? And I think women, it's anybody, any parent, I'm sure feels, like they just want the best for their kid and they want all the things that
Sure.
they didn't have. But where can you empower them? And that not only teaches them, but it saves you and
Yeah.
your life force and your energy, and will create more ease and joy in both of your
I
lives.
think it
in the long
teaches
run.
you as the person patience too, because I think a lot of time, well, and especially it's 2020, so like patience is ugh. But I feel like it forces you to have to be patient because like the person, like you want to take control of it,
right,
and
for your convenience, you just let me just do it.
Yep. But you
Right.
can't do that because then that teaches them, well, if I just frustrate someone enough, I'll get what I want.
Yeah, because by doing the other side too, they also gain a sense of there's a pride thing
Yes.
in being able to do things and figure it out themselves.
Yep.
Once they figure out, well, I can't just get her to do it for me.
Yep.
So, and then you take great pride in the fact that I'll figure it out. And if I can't figure it out, then I'll go to the next step, but I'll figure it out. There's something, that's what you're instilling in them. That's a
Some
big part of it.
independence.
Independence. Yep. Really good one. That's a great list, girl.
Thanks.
You got anything else you want to add?
Yeah, just little things like stopping and taking a few big deep breaths. And if you can get outside and take a few big deep breaths.
That's my favorite thing is to step outside in the sun, even if it's cold outside, but just the sun on your face. Deep breath. Yes. I think you're one of the first people that ever said too, just to get your feet in the sand or get your feet in the grass is so important to kick your shoes off and do that. Because it's always felt right. I just never realized what the purpose was. And it is a connection. And you don't realize that there's a reason why that feels good.
And it's reconnecting to your body. So often we are in run, mode and in fight or flight mode. And it's just stopping and breathing and reconnecting and releasing the stress. Like this last weekend, my kiddos and I tried to build a gingerbread house.
I saw that. I saw the pictures.
Oh, it was so bad. It was so bad. I mean, we bombed at it. I don't know how this freaking roof fits on these tiny little things.
And how does it stay?
Yeah, but we were so bad at it. And at one point, my daughter Victoria was just like, everybody breathe, just breathe. And she knew we needed to reset. And it was really funny to watch. So breathing, getting outside, diffusing lavender in the house is a really good one right now. But I think just being really mindful of what is necessary and what can you delegate, and then where can you empower other people. And again, going back to, if it is not a hell yes, it has to be a hard no. It
Done.
just has to.
Just in general in life.
Yeah. It's
Overall.
self-preservation right there.
There you go. Thank you, Rhianna.
Thank you for having
That's awesome. Where do they find you?
RhiannaMays.com.
Doop-de-doo. Thanks, guys.
Bye, everybody.
Rate, subscribe, review. I can't tell you all that stuff. That's Pat's part. I got to get him to write that down.
Everywhere.
Right? It's everywhere. It's Pat and JT.
Pat and JT Podcast, a Hurrdat Media Production.